of your authors are, recommending you to colleagues or would recommend you to colleagues. What is your uptake so far, and how far to sort of sustainability or profitability is the company, if you're allowed to share that sort of information?
Yeah, I can share that to some extent. I can't share financials. Okay. I can't share financials, but we are looking to be sustainable next year. We are getting an early impact factor, which is really in the numbers. We've published around about, I think we're over 650 articles already, and bear in mind we've only been publishing since February 2013. So we have funding, which also is helping us build out the team as well. So does that help answer your question around sustainability?
Yeah, it's just because your pricing model is obviously very interesting and very different, and I think most of the other publishers that you've spoken today, they've charged the APC, which is per paper, rather than this lifetime membership. So I think that's what I'm more interested in, is how is that working, basically?
It is. The numbers do stack up, and it is, but I can't remember the model that it's built on, but actually we do have a low entry level cost, but and we are making sure that stays at that level. There's no intention to sort of up our pricing, but the numbers stack up because there's a network effect, basically. So typically people aren't publishing more than sort of 2 papers potentially in their lifetime, but when they do, they're bringing on co-authors, and so that means that they are bringing in new people and they're likely to publish as well. So that's the kind of model, it's the network effect model behind it. So yeah. So I don't think Peter or Jason would have founded a business that was
we're not paying for it though. I keep pointing out, I've been on platforms with them, they're not actually paying for it. Other people are. They can found a business, but people pay them.
Yeah.
It doesn't follow. They always say that.
But in terms of sustainability, and I did wonder whether this question might come up, but in terms of sustainability, PJ is definitely on track, so yeah.
All right. Other questions? I'm not going to let you go to lunch until I get some more questions.
I have a question for Brian, actually. Just on your society platform or your institutional platform, you said you put the institutional researchers into the peer review database. Doesn't that sort of conflict with the idea that you shouldn't have people from the same institution reviewing people's papers from that institution, and therefore, why did you do that?
These are supposed to be working.
Is it working, I think? Okay.
Yeah.
The people from their own institution won't review papers from that institution. The idea is to build a network of institutions around the world, though. So at the moment we have 10 universities that are signed up to the platform. It's been going for just under a year. The aim is to have a much larger number and to build a large peer review network out of that. But it's also just a way for people to integrate their their users, their staff members into the life of their publishing company. So, you would never have people reviewing inside the institution.
So my question, I think it goes to any of you, but let's start with Eva maybe. So you're experimenting in several ways. I'm curious about what you think is resonating most with authors. Is it one single thing or a couple of things that seem to be most interesting to you?
Because we publish across the life sciences, our authors are all kind of different, and for different fields seem to like different things. So bioinformaticians really like that they can include all of the software wiki articles, and they love the data articles and things like that. Ecologists really love the observation articles. People in general really like the openness of it, so the complete transparency, the fact that they can see who their peer reviewers were and talk to them directly, and as reviewers like that their name is on it so they'll get credit for it. So it really depends on what the person's role is when they come to us and which field they're in to see what they actually like. There's not one answer.
presentation that you were loading not only the data associated with the articles and null or negative results, but you also used the term bad data. And I'm wondering if I understood that correctly, that you're actually posting data that you know to be bad or false, particularly these retracted articles and all the bad data from the Dutch researcher that you mentioned.
Sure, I mean, especially for data that sits behind the publication, so the data that's being used to come to the results and conclusions of the paper. We want all of that data to be published, and we don't make a judgment as to whether the data is correct or not, because we want people, the community, to be able to go and take that data and try and revalidate the research. So, for example, I used Mr. Stapel in the Netherlands as an example. If he'd been publishing his data all of those years, people would have discovered that his papers were false, his conclusions were false. So it's a matter, and sometimes people don't know that there are flaws in their data, but it's in the public interest that the data be available for validation purposes. So, I mean, we don't actively go out and look for bad data, but we don't make a judgment as to whether it's good or bad first, because it still serves the purpose of being available for validation. But it is good if there are examples of data that's been found to be bad, that it's available so people can do statistical analysis on it and so forth.
Richard Wynn, Area Systems. There are more and more solutions out there for recognizing people's contributions as authors, reviewers, editors, but they all seem to be tied to one particular platform, like the Peerjay system that was just mentioned. Presumably that's recognizing your work on Peerjay but not elsewhere. And that all of these recognition solutions seem very narrow because they assume, you know, everyone is just going to do all their work with you. And the answer should be some sort of more open recognition system, maybe based on ORCID. So if you could comment on that.
I can have a response to this. So we actually, I showed you really briefly how the openness of the peer reviews and the fact that the authors are included will help the reviewers included, will help the reviewer get credit for the work they did. We are actually, as a publisher, also working with ORCID to get peer review reports in ORCID as an accredited piece of scientific output. So that, and then it doesn't depend on which publisher it was with. You can also say, I was a reviewer for this particular journal without giving any details and get that accredited and included somewhere. So we are working across platforms as well.
And there are other systems like Publons, which are coming up, that a lot of publishers are using. I know Peerjay uses it in 1000, I think, yep. And so, and they're a good example where I think publishers need to work with all of those new startups and new systems and try and integrate them. Eventually, a publisher will just be one organization. You know, researchers will use 10 different organizations to get a piece of work out, I think, in the future.
And I can just, if I can, I'd just like to add that, you know, at Frontiers, the network environment that I quickly showed, reviewer recognition is also going to be part of the environment. We talked about a little bit the modular nature of the environment. It'd be very easy to think about a brick that's added to that environment that provides someone's reviewer activity, a summary of the activity, or links to documents or websites that summarize that activity.
I can also add from a Peerjay perspective that we are potentially going to be working with ORCID as well. It's discussions that we're having internally as well. So we realise that people aren't working in silos like that. It should be built around the individual rather than just that publishing process. So that is very important. I think that's a really good question.
Carver from River Valley. Clearly, I mean, you don't want to be, as Richard said, you can't be publisher-centric, as giving in order to give credit to scientists. You mentioned, Georgina, you mentioned that your system was like Stack Overflow. Wouldn't that be a good system, something like Stack Overflow, which is completely independent of any publisher, so that the credit is not even given to one set of data or one paper. Supposing I make a comment, can't publish that. It might be a tweet. It might be uprated because I've actually contributed to that particular discussion. And my peers, real peers, people, scientists, would just uprate me, and I don't know, would that not be a very simple, good system? Because it's getting more and more difficult to give credit with so many systems.
It's called kudos, we were just saying.
Or you should build the River Valley version.
Yeah. I think the trick there, though, Kobe, is making sure that there is one system that everyone's using, and that is the difficult thing. There are so many bits of utility out there. I'm all for interoperability. I think that's really, really important. And it's just trying to find the way to do that, to make sure that everyone's not working in these silos, that they are getting recognition for their work. I don't know what anyone else thinks about it, but I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
There's lots of different solutions to these challenges.
I think that's good too. I think it's good to have an ecosystem of different solutions and to let the community decide how things work. It won't be publishers probably who build these systems, it'll be the community. Scary.
Okay.
I think we've got a few more minutes. I'd like to just say something. I was a publisher of traditional sort for 40 years, and since then I've been an information scientist talking to researchers, and my experience is, I don't agree with Fred at all that in his Aylesbury days he wasn't in touch with the community. I think that's nonsense. Actually, what were you doing as a publisher at Aylesbury if you weren't in touch with the community?
Well, of course you're in touch with the community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You said you weren't, and you said you
if I said that, then I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm very much in touch with the community, and one of the troubles, you said that you were now in touch with the community, as if it hadn't in the past been. Something different.
No, but I think that in that sense, what I mean about the proximity is the fact that authors are individually making the decision where they're going to publish their paper, and more so, it's become part of the market force behind the whole thing. The market decision is being made at the author level rather than at the subscription, at the library subscription level. And I think that the whole dynamic of open access publishing actually puts us forces us to listen to the authors more intensely, to hear what they want in terms of data reporting, in terms of, and that's a driver for innovation.
Let me move on from that. I thought you'd say something like that. Sorry. But no. Okay. Well, I've been interviewing researchers on a project on trusted information resources, and some of them have been researchers writing for open access journals. And it confirms me in the belief that researchers on the whole are highly conservative. My own experience is I try to do things, and when I was at Wiley, I wasn't able to do them. But it was me doing it, because the researchers on the whole, I had to really impress them. I got one editor out of 27 agreeing to have summaries at the end instead of as well as abstracts. And even that was a huge stress. Now, I'm very, very impressed by what you're all doing in somehow working with people who are keen on, authors who are keen on innovation. And I totally agree with what you're doing. I think it's wonderful. But I'm just amazed you can get so many authors who are so keen on innovation.
Well, I think that's what I tried to say quickly. It's very hard to get a message across in just a few minutes. But when I talked about being careful about human nature, what I meant was exactly this: is that scientists are very conservative by nature. I just give you an example. I was talking to an editor yesterday, and I was telling him about all the things that we might be able to do together, and he turned to me and he said, "But what about the rejection rate? What are we going to do about the rejection rate?" And so that's really where a lot of people are. And if you're not able to have, you have to calibrate the conversation according to where the communities are. I mean, I tried to say quickly, neuroscience, for example, biomedical sciences are quite advanced.
Yeah.
Other areas, economics, management, they don't even want to hear about the bells and whistles. They really want the services that they're used to, and we're going to have to hold their hands and bring them through this process of innovation, one development at a time.
I agree. I think fundamentally that it has to come from academia itself. I think the challenge is there. I mean, the publishers are doing all we can to provide the innovation and the platforms to do that. But I think fundamentally it's about making shifts within that.
If they publish with you, it means that they have accepted, they approve of what you're doing, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, a lot of what we do is based on suggestions we got from researchers.
I know you do, Deborah. I just want to stir it up. Sort of polite.
I think maybe you're mistaken when you say authors as a singular, because we heard Jeremy talking about how science has completely changed from 20 years ago and how people are doing science differently. And I think what we as publishers need to be doing is supporting the way science is done. When you talk about authors and what authors want, of course they don't even want to. They don't want to put their data anywhere but in a drawer. They don't want, but science as an institution wants to do all sorts of stuff, and we as publishers are really bad at supporting that, and we're still publishing stuff that looks like it did when the Philosophical Transactions did it. And we need to stop doing that. But if we talk about what authors want, yes, they are incredibly conservative, but that's not who we should be talking to. We should be talking to the scientists, the people who lead science and how they do science.
We all agree to this, don't we? I agree as well. Okay, now we can have lunch. Thank you so much.